So I work for the Institution of Civil Engineers. As Mr. Pires said, I've been working here for about 4.5, 5 years now, almost 5 years. And I'm going to tell you all about the ICE and how you get a professional qualification with the ICE. Okay, so this is what we'll be covering. So an introduction to the ICE. We'll talk about student membership. I'm also going to cover a little bit graduate membership. And then actually, once you graduate, once you've got your degree, how you then start moving forward to becoming professionally qualified with the ICE. So who are we? So the ICE, we were founded over 200 years ago. We were, I think, the first engineering institution in the world, and we are one of the biggest. So we have over 95,000 members in over 150 countries around the world. And from your point of view of people who will be are gaining your degrees and working possibly probably outside of the UK, that is really important because we are internationally recognised and we have this global membership. So wherever you go in the world, whether you're working in Sri Lanka or whether you end up working somewhere else in the world, people will recognise your qualification with the ICE, and that is why it's important. So we promote civil engineering around the world, and we see ourselves as a centre of civil engineering knowledge. We actually have the largest civil engineering library in the world, both physical books and also online information you can access. And as a member, you can obviously access all the online knowledge we have. And we are licensed by the UK Engineering Council to assess civil engineers for professional registration as eng-tech, that's technician membership, incorporated engineer, I-eng, and chartered engineer, C-eng, and that's what I will be talking about a bit later. But that's quite important, is that it's the Engineering Council of the UK that sets down the standards, and we then assess people, examine them against those standards, and award those professional qualifications. So just a few pictures really to show you a bit more about ourselves. So if you look at that picture on the top right hand side, that is our main headquarters down in London, 1 Great George Street we call it. It's right by the Houses of Parliament, so it's right in the centre of Westminster in London, and if you ever manage to get to London, you can just pop in and have a look round. It's quite a magnificent building. But I think the important thing about the position of it is that we are right in the heart of London. Our top people in policy will be influencing the lawmakers in the UK, and more we like to see ourselves as people who are out there throughout the world, helping to support knowledge and policy making around civil engineering and infrastructure throughout the world. So if you look at the top left hand, that is people coming to collect their professional qualification certificates. So people actually come to London and collect them. So that another key bit about what we do is the qualifications, which is the main thing I'll be talking to you about today. But we also have a professional services arm. So if you've heard of the NEC contract, which is one of the main construction contracts used definitely in the UK and also in many other places around the world, that is managed by the ICE. We publish journals, we engage with academics, particularly in the UK, but also around the world, in order to publish the knowledge, the forefront of civil engineering knowledge, and we like to see ourselves as the voice of infrastructure. So by looking at becoming a member of the ICE, that is what you're buying into, that rich history and that global reach around the world. So what do we do then? How do we help you? So the key thing, as I said, is about that assessing you against and qualifying you as an industry professional. By gaining a qualification with the ICE, it has been shown to boost your career and earn you more money. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. But with a professional qualification with any institution, it's likely to improve your career. And with a global institution, obviously, that makes all the difference. The other side of things is networking. Obviously, you become part of that 95,000 membership throughout the world. And we are all about our members. Oh, I'm sorry, don't know why that's gone forward. The 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍 is a membership organisation, and that's really important, that we are all about our members. We do have all sorts of knowledge resources that you can access. As I said, we have the largest engineering or civil engineering library in the world. We have something called the Knowledge Hub, which as a member you can access, and there are all sorts of online training modules you can engage in. And we have lots of webinars, recorded webinars and live webinars that you can look at. So lifelong learning is something we're really keen on throughout your civil engineering career, not just at the beginning, but throughout it. We're here to support your learning. We're here for guidance and support, and we see ourselves as the passport to a global career. So these are our membership grades. So hopefully by the end of today or at some point quite soon, many of you will join as student members, and I'll talk a little bit about how you do that. Student membership is free. Once you graduate, you can become a graduate member, and at that point you can already use the letters 𝗍𝗵𝗄𝘆, 𝗍𝗵𝗍𝗄𝗍 after your name, and that's as somebody going out into the world of work, you're already differentiating yourself and showing that you're different to other civil engineers because you have the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍 membership, and you're already showing your commitment to your professional qualification and to your professional career. And then the professional levels of membership, we have engineering technician level, incorporated engineer level, and chartered engineer level. And those, you will be applying for those, but depending on what degree you have and what sort of work experience you have, and we'll be talking about those in a minute. And then above that, there's also fellowship of the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍. So that will be the pinnacle of your career, that once you get a professional qualification in, as a chartered or incorporated or engineering technician level, then hopefully you go on to become a fellow of the Institution of Civil Engineers, which would really be something to aim at throughout your career. So why do civil engineers join the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍? Around in the UK and around the world. So as I said, it's partly about our professional qualifications, that we are seen as the industry standard, we are globally recognised, and we do support your career progression. But it's more than just that. It's more than just the professional qualification. It does give you access to world-class knowledge. It does give you access to networking opportunities. And as I said, we inform public policy. So you become part of an institution which is working for civil engineers around the world. And it's important to say that we have a very broad membership. There are lots of engineering institutions, that you can become part of. Most of them are much more focused on a narrower area than the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍. And the great thing about the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍 is that we have members throughout the whole of civil engineering and infrastructure. So whether you go into working in transport, public health, structures, you will find members who are like you, and whether you go into becoming a contractor, a consultant, or work for a client organisation, again, there will be plenty of people around who are members of the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍 working in similar areas. So there is no typical member, and that is a real strength of what we offer, this breadth of different people you can network with. So that's a little bit about the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍. So now I'll just talk a little bit about student membership of the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍 and also graduate membership as well. I'll also touch on that. So your first step probably into the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍 is this free student membership, which gives all sorts of different benefits. I've highlighted there, it looks good on your CV. I think that's a really key one, that when you put on your CV that you have student membership of the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍, that already shows employers or anybody else you're showing your CV to that you are really focused on your career and that you're focused on your professional commitment, your professional development, even as a student. So even right at the beginning of your career. But it also gives you access to the 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗍 Learning Hub, which is what I talked about, where you can, there are all sorts of modules that you can log into and get sort of skills training. There are all sorts of other online resources, knowledge resources, events. student chapter events. You also get a digital copy of the new Civil Engineer, which will keep you up to date with what's going on in the world. There are awards and much, much more. So there are many benefits for that free student membership. And to take out your free student membership, basically, you will need to go on to our website. So you go onto the student member portal. You'll need your personal details about the course that you're studying, and the name and email address of your course tutor. And basically, it's a very simple process then. You create your 𝗍𝗍 account. You can see on the right-hand side there. You create an account ID number, and then you can go on and set up your student membership. And once you become a student member, it gives you access to all the things I've talked about. So once you've graduated, you then will probably want to think about upgrading to graduate membership. And as I said, you can immediately start using the letters 𝗍𝗵𝗄𝘇 after your name to demonstrate the fact that you are a graduate member of the ICE. So it puts you on that fast track to become professionally qualified. It shows that you have that focus on your career. It gives you the ability to look at our webinars, training courses, engage with people like me who can support you and help you get your professional qualification. It gives you access to networking and global recognition. So there are lots of reasons why you would become a graduate member once you graduate and you upgrade your student membership. So again, you go onto the internet, you go onto our graduate membership portal, and you put in your degree qualifications. You will need to have a certified copy of the qualifications, etc., and you can upgrade to your graduate membership. Now there is a fee for graduate membership. It is currently £161, which if you're outside of the UK, which I know is probably a lot of money for people working in Sri Lanka because of everything that's going on, but there are reduced rates available. So really I wanted to say, well, the reason I put this slide up is that don't think that you're not going to be able to do it because of the fees, because there are reduced rates available. So hopefully that won't be a barrier to you. So just looking at some of the things that you get with that membership. So online webinars. Now you can see here, there's some examples of the sorts of webinars that are available for you to watch. Many of them are recorded, so there's an archive. Some of them are live, which the timing might not be great for you, but you can engage in the live ones and ask questions. Now, a lot of them are a bit UK focused, but there are also webinars about things going on around the world. So it does give you some good access to information about what's going on around the world. We also have, every year, we have a different president, and it's really worth watching the president's address. So, for instance, that just gives you a link to the current president is Mr. Ed McCann. He did his presidential address in 2021. It was all about productivity in the world of civil engineering. Really, really interesting. Before him, Rachel Skinner was the president, and she did her presidential address on net zero and reducing the carbon footprint in civil engineering. So again, really, really useful information and really useful resource for you to use. And this just shows you the cover of the new Civil Engineer. So every 2 month, I think it is, there is a new copy of the new Civil Engineer. As a member, you get a digital copy, and it's a good read, and it gives you lots of information to keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of civil engineering. So it just gives you some examples of the sorts of things you might be able to access. So just looking a little bit then at what's happened in Sri Lanka, because I thought it's worth you just getting a feel for the sorts of numbers of people there are in Sri Lanka who are members. So there are, as you can see there, 676 currently, or when I ran this a couple of days ago, student members. So there's quite a large number of student members and 303 graduate members. So again, quite a significant number. It's not a huge number, but it's enough to make it worthwhile in terms of that networking that you'll be able to gain by being a member. and 107 members, so that means they either got chartered membership or incorporated membership. And as you can see, 11 fellows, so that's brilliant, 11 fellows within Sri Lanka. So a total of over 1,000 members throughout the country. So it just gives you a feel for the sort of ability you have to network with other people around your country. And there is actually, Sri Lanka is quite unusual outside of the UK, in as much as you have a graduate members forum. So this is run by graduate members. This just shows you a screenshot of their Facebook page and a link, and I don't know whether we'll be able to, hopefully I can share these slides with you afterwards. That just gives you a link through. And it is a group of graduate members who formed themselves into a discussion group. I think they used to run face-to-face events and get together. They do all sorts of online things, and that's a real bonus for you, and something that Sri Lanka has that not many other countries have, to be honest. And there is the Sri Lankan representative for the 𝘊𝚻𝗍, Malith Mendis, is really instrumental in organising this, and a real advocate of the 𝘊𝚻𝗍 within Sri Lanka, and a good person to have around. Okay, so that is a little bit about the 𝘊𝚻𝗍 and membership. So now what I'm going to talk about is actually how do you become professionally qualified with the 𝘊𝚻𝗍, and why would you want to become qualified with the 𝘊𝚻𝗍 as well. So what are the benefits of a professional qualification? And some of this I've already mentioned. So improved career prospects. Having a professional qualification means that you have been assessed by an independent person, or two independent people, actually, two independent reviewers, who are assessing you against the Engineering Council standard competencies and saying, yes, this person has the competencies that we look for in a professionally qualified person. So it's that independent judgment of your qualifications which are recognised throughout the world. So it gives you improved career prospects, higher earning potential. It's your evidence of a professional attitude. It takes some work to become professionally qualified, and that does show that you are the sort of person who's really going to work hard on your professional status. It gives you enhanced status, international recognition, because it is a qualification that's recognised around the world, and because there are 𝘊𝚻𝗍 members throughout the world, it is recognised internationally, and it is, as I said, evidence of expertise. So whilst it does require some work from you, a significant amount of work from you, there really is a lot of value in gaining this qualification. So this just gives you a view of the sort of overall process as to how you get there. How do you get to that membership, that 𝘊𝚻𝗍, 𝘊𝚻 membership, as you can see at the right-hand side of that flowchart? So it all starts with the educational base, which is where you are now. So you need a given educational base to become professionally qualified, and I'll talk about that first. And then I'm going to talk a bit about the training period, so what we call initial professional development. Initial professional development, IPD, is all about you gaining skills in the workplace to become a professionally competent engineer. And we assess you against those Engineering Council competencies. And once you have all the competencies required by the Engineering Council, you're then said to have completed your IPD, you have all the competencies, and you can apply for your professional review. And once you pass your professional review, which is where you're assessed by two independent reviewers against all the competencies, then you will get the membership at either 𝘊𝚻𝗍 or 𝘊𝚻𝗍 level. Now, the difference between 𝘊𝚻𝗍 or 𝘊𝚻𝗍 is that 𝘊𝚻𝗍 the competencies required are a bit higher than 𝘊𝚻𝗍. So at 𝘊𝚻𝗍, you're a good, competent engineer who has all the competencies against the different competencies required. And 𝘊𝚻𝗍 is that bit more where you need to demonstrate leadership, innovation, continuous improvement. So it's just a bit of a higher standard, but the process for 𝘊𝚻𝗍 or 𝘊𝚻𝗍 is the same. So we're going to look first at the academic requirements. Now, if you were sitting a UK accredited qualification, then generally speaking, somebody with a BEng or a BSc would be eligible to start to work towards becoming an incorporated engineer, and somebody with a master's would be eligible to start to work towards a chartered engineer. Now, unfortunately, you're not, well, not unfortunately, you're not doing an accredited degree. So what you will need to do when you finish your degree is apply for an academic assessment. And basically the academic assessment is where you submit your degree certificates, transcripts of the work you've done, the modules you've taken, your dissertation, things like that. And they are assessed by our academic qualifications panel, which are UK academics. They assess your degree qualification against the standard UK degree at either BEng, BSc or MEng level, and they will then determine at what level your degree is and whether you are eligible for incorporated engineer or whether you're eligible for chartered engineer. So that'll be the first thing that you need to do in your pathway to becoming professionally qualified. So going back then to the flowchart, so the educational base we just talked about. So we're now going to go on and talk about that IPD, that's gaining those professional skills in the workplace, and what are the skills that we're looking for. So we measure the skills of a professional engineer by attributes. So we have 7 attributes, and these are the skills you'll be needing to be gaining once you're out in the world of work. So we have understanding and practical application of engineering, management and leadership, commercial ability, health, safety and welfare, sustainable development, interpersonal skills and communication, and professional commitment. So those are the 7 attributes, the 7 different competencies that you will need to demonstrate in order to get to your professional review, and you'll also need to demonstrate them at your professional review. So I think the important thing about this is that it's not just about technical knowledge. And a lot of people, when they first come out into work, most people the jobs they start in are quite technical, but you will also need all those other skills: management, commercial, sustainability, professional commitment. You'll need all of those, and you'll need to demonstrate them all to the right level in order to become a chartered or an incorporated engineer. So if you go onto our website, you can see there's a good description of all the different attributes. And you can see for each attribute, it's broken down into a number of different parts. And as I said, it's slightly different for IEng to CEng. And you will need to demonstrate all parts of that attribute for all 7 attributes, and be signed off against those attributes before you can take your professional review. So the next thing I want to talk about is actually how do you demonstrate those attributes? How do you get signed off to go to your professional review? So there are a number of different ways, and the top one you can see there, mentor supported training, is probably the most likely that you will at least start thinking about. So mentor supported training is for new graduates. So once you've graduated, you get a job, you start working wherever you are in the world, you can then apply for mentor supported training. And basically you will need to be supported by a mentor. So you would need to find a mentor, and that mentor needs to be approved by the ICE. And I'll talk a little bit in the next slide about exactly what mentor supported training is. But before I move on to that, I'll just mention the other 2. So the other options are a training agreement, which is very similar to mentor supported training, but is where you're working for a company that's already been approved by the ICE. So if you are working in Sri Lanka, you probably won't be working for a company that's approved by the ICE, because there aren't that many of them. But if you work somewhere else in the world, if you came to the UK to work, for instance, then you probably would be able to access the training agreement. And the other route is career appraisal. So if you don't start with mentor supported training or training agreement as soon as you graduate, and maybe you don't have the opportunity to do that, you can still become professionally qualified a bit later on in your career when you would apply for a career appraisal assessment. And that's for people who already have all the skills for the more experienced engineers. But I'll assume to start with that you either go onto a training agreement or mentor supported training, and those two pictures there just show our guidance documents. So basically you start work, and over a number of years you will be gaining all the competencies against the 7 attributes. So there's technical competencies, health and safety, management and leadership, interpersonal skills and communication. And you're gradually gaining, as you're working, you're gaining the appropriate competencies as defined by us. And you'll be working with your ICE approved mentor. And what the mentor is doing is they're working you to assess you against those competencies, and they can then sign you off. We have an online system that you sign up to, and they will be signing you off to approve that you have reached a given level of competence. And once you've reached the appropriate, the required level of competence against all the 7 attributes, they can sign you off and you can apply for your professional review. So that just shows you our online system. So basically you can see there, you've got the different attributes, and this person has been signed off. That there are different levels you get signed off. First, you have to show that you have knowledge of the attribute, then experience, which is E, and then ability at I-eng level, which is AI, and then ability at C-eng level, which is AC. So it's a really good system. You're uploading your evidence, your mentor is signing you off, and you're gradually building all those competencies until you're ready to get the final sign-off. And throughout this, you also need to be maintaining your continuing professional development. So this is your skills training. So whilst you're working, you will also be doing you'll be learning various other skills. So you might, for instance, do a health and safety course, or you might learn some new computer software, or you might go on a management course. And all these things you need to be logging in what we call continuing professional development. And there is a particular format that we would expect you to use. And we need you to be showing that you're doing about 30 hours a year. And when you get to your professional review, you will need to submit your continuing professional development, your CPD records. So once you start work, it's a good idea to immediately start recording your CPD. You'll be doing lots and lots of training, especially at the beginning. And if you start it at an early stage, it'll be easier for you. I quite often talk to people who've been working a few years and they haven't been recording their CPD. They've been doing it all. They've been doing all the skills training. They just haven't recorded it. And then they've got a bit of a job to do to get it all up to date. So look at our guidance document. There's a link there. And start recording your CPD as soon as you graduate and start work. So going back to our flowchart again, so we've talked about the educational base, and now we've talked about the initial professional development, IPD. Now it will normally take about 5 to 7 years for somebody to get all the competencies they need for C-eng. If you were going for I-eng, it's probably 4 to 5 years. So it does take a number of years' work because you've got to gain all those competencies while you're working. But once you've done that, and once you're signed off, you can then apply for your professional review. And once you pass your professional review, you then become a C-eng or I-eng mice. You can put those letters after your name, and you have that professional qualification that everybody can see and understand what it is. So I'm just going to play a very quick video. Hopefully you can hear this.
I want to grow as an engineer, I want to grow as a person, and I find that the ICE's route to professional qualification helps me.
It will help you progress with your career, and it will bring you up to a standard which you could be on sort of the world stage of civil engineering.
It is kind of like a stamp on your CV or on you as a person that says that you're skilled in your profession.
Being professionally qualified is an acknowledgement of your competence, your expertise and your skills. The ICE are very supportive with your progression. They help you with attending lectures and other kind of events that will push you forward.
One of the best things of being a member of the ICE is you become part of this wider civil engineering community, which has the ability to impact the way society works.
When you go to all these lectures and presentations as well and getting everybody else's experience and then all being in the same room and having different ideas and opinions on one subject.
The reason why I became professionally qualified is that it was a differentiator. There are plenty of engineers out there who have experience and do well at doing their job role. But what I wanted when I entered my career was to get that extra bit, the bit that gave me flexibility.
You're recognised by your peers as being someone that's competent and have the credentials to carry out the day-to-day job that you do.
It's well recognised, it's international, it's internationally recognised.
You've demonstrated to the governors of engineering, the ICE, that you are at a very high standard in your profession.
Whenever I cast my mind back to whenever I got the email, which was the initial part of it to say that I had passed my professional review, I was completely over the moon. I did my happy dance and I made a lot of phone calls to tell everybody. It was just that moment where it was just...
Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Hope that made you feel like you want to become a member. So, as I said, going back to the beginning, the first step is that student membership, which is free, and there are all sorts of benefits. And that is the end. So, thank you very much for listening.